This time we are back in the Yorkshire Dales visiting another wonderful historic town, Pateley Bridge, with its charming high street still serving its rural community, historic buildings, delicious pie shop, the oldest sweet shop in the world, and some lovely walks or drives around the surrounding area. It's a real unspoilt hidden gem of the Yorkshire Dales. Join us to find out more. Pateley Bridge, known locally as just Pateley, is the heart of Upper Nidderdale, an area of outstanding natural beauty on the eastern edge of the Yorkshire Dales, just 15 miles northwest of the famous spa town of Harrogate. This charming place is a hive of activity with lovely independent shops, eateries and craft stores, which we'll see more of later. We'll start our walk by the River Nid and the bridge that crosses it. The site of an early ford river crossing, it was followed by a wooden bridge in the 14th century and now this stone one since the 18th century. This is how it looked in 1900. You'll notice red plaques like this one all over the town following a heritage trail. We'll put a link in the description so you can follow it too when you visit. This road, now known as Nid Walk, used to be where the railway tracks ran. We are walking along the railway line route. A wealthy local businessman, George Metcalfe, lobbied for a branch line to Harrogate to help support the export of materials from businesses he owned, which included a flax mill and brewery in the town. It opened in 1862 at a cost of £8,000, carrying goods from the Dales, including passengers. The only reminder of the branch line is the main station building, which is now residential housing. The railway closed to passengers in 1951 and goods in 1964. Further down the road is the site of the locomotive turntable, not that you could tell now. A piece of public art called Pillars Past by Joseph Hayton is sited on the location. This installation represents aspects of the history of Pateley Bridge and consists of 3 figures emerging from rough sandstone pillars: a monk, a shepherd, and a lead miner. Engines would spin around here to pull the trains back to Harrogate along the single track. Looking back down the road with the station building to the right, this is what it would have looked like during the heydays of the railway. This car park would have been the railway goods yards. Crossing the High Street onto King Street and then into Millfield Street, we are looking for the Royal Cocoa House built in 1873, passing some very sweet buildings on the way. The Cocoa House movement was a nationwide campaign that formed part of a larger temperance drive. The Royal Cocoa House was set up to combat the heavy drinking in the pubs and offered the same social atmosphere but with no alcohol. This building also housed the Mechanics' Institute, a place of adult education in Victorian times. Walking back along King Street, it looked quite different at the turn of the 20th century. In the foreground is an area called Feast Field, which was used for annual fairs, circuses and events. It is now the location of the health centre, but an annual fair and agricultural show still takes place in the larger showground across the bridge. Climbing the hill, we pass St Cuthbert's C.of.E. Primary School, built in 1875 as a boarding school. Later it became a comprehensive. Today it is a primary school as a new high school and community college was built over the river. At the top of the hill is the old workhouse, built in 1863 to house up to 80 inmates. Today it is home to the Nidderdale Museum and Nidderdale Area of Outstanding Natural Beauty offices. We'll come back to the museum later when it opens. It was surprising how large it is inside, with so many fascinating exhibits about the local area's history. Looking down over the town, St Cuthbert Church, an early 19th century building, which was built to replace the old Church of St Mary's, which fell into disrepair. It looks like St Cuthbert is also having some repairs at the moment. Inside the door you can see a bell believed to be 15th century from nearby Fountains Abbey. Heading back towards the High Street and down Church Street, we pass the old courthouse and police station. Built in 1897, it closed in 1995. OddFellows Hall, erected in 1859 to provide miners and quarrymen insurance for sickness and illness. It was a popular venue for concerts as well until a cinema opened in 1929. Right next door is the local Playhouse. It was built in 1859 as a primitive Methodist chapel, closing in 1933. It was then used by the Salvation Army until it opened as the local theatre in 1968, and it's still going strong. It's so charming. Moving on to the High Street, ahead of us is a wonderful butcher's, but more on that in a minute. We'll walk up to the top corner of the High Street on these very narrow pavements. Cocoa Joe's is the second establishment to sell chocolate drinks in the town after the Royal Cocoa House we saw earlier. It offers all sorts of specialty chocky drinks. You'll start to notice some very old buildings on the High Street, like the Pateley Club, built in, can you believe, 1664. Originally the George and Dragon Inn, Elizabeth Metcalfe started her brewery from here. In 1889 it became the brewery manager's house, and then in the 20th century the Conservative Club. Now still a club and bar anyone can pop in for a pint. At the top of the High Street on the corner adjoining Ripon Road was the location of the Nidderdale Brewery, started in 1773 by Elizabeth Metcalfe and then expanded by her sons John and George. You can see the sheer size of the site in this 19th century photo. Sadly, it was all demolished in 1963. Now it's time to check out that pie shop, which actually is a lovely local butcher's with the best selection of pies and pasties I've ever seen. We did pick up a couple of Pateley Bridge pasties that I have to say were delicious. We'd highly recommend a visit here. Right across the street is the oldest sweet shop in the world, even though the sign says England, as verified by the Guinness Book of Records. The building is from 1661, making it the oldest in Pateley Bridge. It's been trading as a sweet shop since 1827. Inside you'll find a collection of your old favourite sweets, which they'll even measure out on the equally old weighing scales. Again, you have to buy a little treat from this store, it's so cute. It was so nice to see spring has sprung, with pink blossom brightening up Southfields just off the high street. Our next historic building is Talbot House, a delightful Georgian bed and breakfast that was formerly the Star Inn, a coaching inn with stables for 15 horses. The lower part of the high street has more craft and independent shops worth checking out. There is no mistaking you're in Yorkshire. This is where you can also find the local fish and chip shop. They are known as fisheries in Yorkshire. We bought our dinner from here and sat on a bench to eat it. Another tasty recommendation.
That looks good. Nice and hot, freshly done. Very nice. Oh. Yeah. Got in just in time, it shuts at 7. Yeah, nice.
Beef dripping, definitely.
Is it beef dripping?
Uh-huh.
They say it's beef dripping.
I can taste it.
Can you? That's good.
Before 1765, a chap called Christopher Benson ran a butter carrying business from this location. It was rebuilt in 1767 as a post inn. It's now the Crown Inn, which has a nice bar and restaurant you can enjoy. We certainly did. As we reach the bottom of the high street, don't miss King's Court. It's tucked away next to the butcher's in an alleyway and has some cute shops. Look out for the interesting window shapes and sizes. It was formerly the coach yard and stables for the King's Head Hotel that is now just shops on the high street. Arriving at the Stone Garden, we are back by the bridge where we started. We still have much more to show you, the Nidderdale Museum and some lovely places you can visit around the area. Pateley Bridge was unknown to us before our visit. Following our very popular travel series in Yorkshire last year, Maison Parfaite a Yorkshire family-run business got in touch and invited us up to Pateley to stay in Nydsley Hall and showcase this wonderful area. Our accommodation was just off a small lane next to the bridge and river. This area we think was used in part for the brewery, a saw and corn mill. Nydsley Hall dates from 1900, a family home built for mill owners Thomas and Robert Ingleby. It's been a doctor's residence and surgery, and today our place to stay whilst here. Maison Parfaite have a number of luxury suites here for couples, families or large groups. They even have 3 hot tubs. We had been given the penthouse suite situated up the old staircase in the roof of the house. This spacious 2-bedroom suite has been very nicely decorated throughout and has a very modern kitchen, so you can self-cater if you wish. Indeed, we enjoyed a sort of English breakfast before heading out to explore on our second day. There is everything you need to make a full evening meal. If you get mucky out walking in the Dales, then there's even a washing machine to get cleaned up. Being high up, we had great views of the River Nid and the Upper Nidderdale scenery around town. The location was just 2 minutes from the high street, so could not have been better placed. Maison Parfaite have more properties like this all over Yorkshire, so do check out their website if you're planning a trip to the county. We had a really comfortable stay. We are back at the workhouse, in use until 1925, and now the Nidderdale Museum. It is open from 1:30 to 4:30 Tuesday to Sunday, and should not be missed if you visit the town. Inside are 13 themed rooms full of fascinating artefacts pertaining to Pateley and the Nidderdale area. It was a real surprise. We'll show you some of what you can see. This room showcases life in Nidderdale, with mock-ups of a schoolroom, pub and locals kitchen. There are so many knick-knacks, tools and utensils to look at. It's great fun trying to work out what some of the items were for. Moving through some of the other rooms, you'll learn more about religion and the church, the clothes and costumes of the last few hundred years, and the war years in Nidderdale. A number of the shops and businesses have been recreated, and the archive photos and information boards provide an interesting insight into the high street of years gone by. We have spoken already about the railway, and this area shares more wonderful artefacts and archive photos, one of which shows the last passenger train at the Pateley station in March 1951. One of our favourite rooms was the Victorian parlour, laid out for a family afternoon tea. We end our tour of the museum with a section on law and order and poverty, including information on the workhouse building that we have been walking around. This has just been a small taste of everything you can see at this fascinating museum. The town is a great base for seeing more of Nidderdale and the Yorkshire Dales. We took a drive out over the bridge, passing the Bewley Park Showgrounds that will again be hosting the annual Nidderdale show in September, celebrating the best of agricultural traditions. This road climbs steeply out of the town on Greenhow Hill, heading towards Grassington and the Dales. It's quite a climb, lasting about 3 miles, and a favourite for cyclists to conquer. A few miles away is what could be considered a strange attraction. Seen from above, this unusual art sculpture overlooks the Coldstone's Quarry. As we begin our walk up the hill, you will notice the remains of Toft Gate Lime Kiln, and we'll take a look at that on the way back. This lovely walk climbs 40 metres up and really showcases the beauty of Nidderdale, and it's probably why the sculpture was positioned here. The sculpture is by artist Andrew Sabin and completed in 2010. A narrow walkway guides you to the viewing platforms. As you reach the centre, you have a choice to head straight on or take a left or right turn and walk a circular path leading up to separate viewing locations. I can only assume that the stone walls are kept high so that you only see the stunning views just as you pop up out at the top. We are now 1,400 feet, 418 metres above sea level, and the panoramic views are just breathtaking. Not only can you see the incredible Yorkshire landscape, but the ever-changing weather and cloud formations. From this vantage point, we also get to look down onto the last working limestone quarry in Nidderdale. Most of the rock from this quarry is used as crushed rock aggregate in concrete and asphalt, But limestone is also used in the production of glass, paper, plastics, toothpaste, and for water purification, to name but a few of its many uses. Up until the First World War, quarrying was one of the main industries in Nidderdale. To see some of this industrial heritage, let's walk back down to the Toft Gate lime kiln. The kiln, its long flue and chimney, were built in the 1860s, but limestone and lead have been sourced here since the 16th century. Large quantities of coal arrived by train at Pateley Bridge and were hauled up Goodhow Hill. Limestone blocks were placed in the furnace and heated for a long period at over 800 centigrade. The smoke passed along the long flue and took the smoke away from the workers and out of the chimney. Over time, the limestone broke down into a crumbly quicklime, which was raked away in a lower chamber. Queues of carts would load the finished product and haul it back to Pateley for distribution to other parts of the country. It's worth noting that the car park is listed as a great spot for some nighttime stargazing due to the reduced light pollution in this area. Further down the road, about 5 miles from Pateley, is Stump Cross Caverns. We didn't stop, but you can step into the underworld of caves discovered in 1860 by lead miners and explore the labyrinth of passages. If you want to head deeper into the Dales and see other beautiful towns, then Grassington should be high on your list. The drive there alone is stunning, even on a fairly grey day. We visited this town in another video, showing its rich history, beautiful walks, Linton Falls, and of course, it's where the latest series of All Creatures Great and Small was filmed, so do check out that video. For another alternative within 30 minutes of Pateley, join us next week when we visit the wonderful market town of Knaresborough, home to the iconic viaduct, Blind Jack, Mother Shipton's Cave, the ruins of Knaresborough Castle, and so much more. This stunning town is idyllic and full of fun and interesting things to see and do. Subscribe now so you don't miss this beautiful Yorkshire town. Thanks for visiting Pateley Bridge with us, and thank you, Masson Parfait, for inviting us. See you again next time.